Melissa here. It's week 4. She just informed me of the dating series. And so today we want to talk about kind of a general rule, or what's one thing we've learned from past dating that we would kind of give advice to you if we're hanging out or over coffee or something like that. So our answers might be different to this, but that's kind of the secret to dating, or the one thing we would give as advice to someone before they go into dating. For me, I think of 2 quotes when I think of that question. I think of the first one is, when I heard this is, if you live for someone's praise, you die by their rejection. And then the second one is, if you're putting your hope in anything but Jesus, you're putting your hope in something broken. Now, the reason I think of those 2 quotes is because one of the biggest problems I see in dating relationships is people make the boyfriend or the girlfriend their functional God, their functional savior. Meaning they might say they love Jesus, but they actually get their worth, their identity, their value, their whole life is wrapped up around another person that's not Jesus. It's actually another fallen, sinful human being who will never give them and sustain the weight of what they're asking. And so that's what I would say is, man, just make sure before you go into a relationship that you're anchored and rooted in Jesus. What he says about you is true, because like we said, everything else is broken, but he's anchored. He's hope, right? He is kind of the rock that you can stand on that allows you to then be so healthy in your identity that then you can actually have a proper, healthy relationship. And so that's kind of what I would say for the advice, because the truth is, what you need to realize is, when you break up with someone, that's fine. You broke up and it's hard and it might be difficult, but if you do it in a healthy manner, it's not that bad. But if you break up with someone and they're your God, they're your idol, they're kind of, again, everything's wrapped up around them, then you didn't just break up with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, you just broke up with your God, right? Your functional savior. And so that's a lot harder, and that's why you see people who just feel like they really can't even live anymore through to that.
Yeah, I think that was great, babe. My thing I was thinking of is communication. And it sounds so normal, but I was thinking communication with the Lord, communication with people in your life, and communication with the person you're dating. And so communication with the Lord, I think in dating relationship, always be praying. Always be going before the Lord with an open hand, giving the person over to the Lord, whatever he wants for this relationship, whatever would glorify him. And I think that helps to not idolize the person when you have an open hand and you're not tight-fisted, and knowing that, this isn't in your control. You are a participant in it, and you obviously make wise decisions, but God ultimately is going to have his way. And so just to really be praying it and giving it over to the Lord every day, and asking him for wisdom of each step, and of how to communicate and get to know each other, and then communication with those in your life. So those that are close to you, that you really trust and you really value their opinion and their advice, and that you can communicate with them and really share with them what struggles you have, what questions, what doubts, what really exciting things are happening. People that will walk through it with you, so you're not alone, that will ask you the hard questions and keep you accountable, but also give you a lot of wisdom, like when you get in a fight and when you are doubting and when you are really upset, to really speak truth into that moment is really vital. And then finally, communicate with the person you're dating. I know when Jeff and I first dated, he was my first boyfriend, and I just thought everything had to be perfect, and that conflict was a sign of this is going to be done and
Of
over.
unhealthiness or something.
Yeah, unhealthiness. And realizing, no, that's so not true at all.
It depends on how the conflict is.
Right, how the conflict is. And so communicate with them. If something bothers you, pray about it. Maybe talk to a mentor, but then talk to them about it. Don't just bury it and let it, harbor bitterness or these doubts in you, but actually talk it out so you can understand one another and draw closer to each other, and just communicate like your desires, and when you do this, I think this, and your hopes and your dreams, because you're getting to know someone, and so you want to communicate with them. So that's what I would say, communication with those 3 people.
That's good. That's a book outline, communication with God.
So I really want to respond to how great that was, because I think now that I'm 45 years old and I look back at what I didn't know about dating, obviously people are drawn to people for different reasons, and they're drawn to characteristics. They might be drawn, or in some cases, they might be drawn to those characteristics or drawn away from those characteristics. So every dating relationship, and this is especially the important model that I've come to understand more and more as I was younger, and I I'm so glad that I knew this then, that when you're dating someone, you might be dating somebody else's husband or wife. And to treat that person with the same kind of honor, that when you ever meet the husband or wife, that you had a right relationship with that person. I'm not saying that people are going to do that perfectly, but in every dating relationship, you're not going to marry everyone. you could feel like wanting to marry them, but the most mature thing for younger people especially, and moms and dads, is prepare for dating. You know your kids are going to date. The best thing you want for your kids is to date responsibly, maturely, and handle it maturely. Don't be afraid to talk about the topic sex. I think one of the things is because we're so, innocent, or maybe in some ways we think that there's we're going to get slapped with the Bible. That to me isn't really how it is. Should you have sex before marriage? You ask yourself these questions. Or can you? You can, but is it beneficial? Will it be a step back? And sometimes I think, and I honestly can say this, there's a lot of regrets, and it's always after the fact. So this is why you use some wisdom. Will you feel regret? Will you, of course, in the beginning when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't want to be thinking about that in the heat of the moment. You want to think about these things before you're in the heat of the moment, and then you can't make the right decision because emotions take over, and the natural response is to react and then think about those things after. And that's the truth. I think back to mistakes about dating and why it's important to learn from them, because you don't want to keep making those mistakes. It's really hard to face our character flaws, and you're going to have them. And that season, and I'm divorced, so am I going to consider dating again? I haven't. Will I? I don't know. I mean, it's just, I think that's why God prepares us for a season. And there's a season in each person's life that they have to be right with the Lord, or spend some time quieting themselves and drawing close to Him. And I really do believe that if God intends it that way, it will happen. And I don't say that just facetiously. I say that with all honesty. I had a lot of things I had to outgrow from my marriage and divorce. And even looking back at when I was younger, I realized that I made a lot of mistakes in dating. Maybe made some choices that I wasn't really proud of. And it's never easy to look back at those and still feel the wounds of the past. The wounds of the past can be a hindrance, or it can be a very helpful guide, like why I don't want to do that again because that hurt. Yeah. I can think of a couple people on my hand, especially one when I dated and I was much younger, what I thought of that person, and I was very much worldly, and I didn't know the things I know now. If I were to think of the things I used to think, I would wish those thoughts never entered my mind about people. Honor the people you're in a relationship with, even if you don't know if there's a future, or if there is a future, honor them anyway. Don't talk about each other. Don't say bad things. One of the hardest things in my own marriage and divorce is how badly we talked about each other behind each other's back, and that was one of the hardest things. If there was one thing that I think if I could do anything differently, is talk honorably. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. That is a real painful lesson, because we're always thinking of the things that really wounded us in those relationships. And one of the hardest things to overcome is the things we've done in that relationship, the hurt that we might have caused, not ours, just to the people in our relationships, but the ones we've caused that hurt us more. And I look at the regrets. It's a lot easier to dwell in that regret, though, And one of the things is you don't want to dwell on it, you want to learn from it. And the painful thing is separating the emotions from the lesson. And you take the emotions out, of course, you want to identify why you feel that way. Why did I feel like I hurt that person? Maybe I misjudged them. Maybe I hurt them by characterizing them and putting them in a category. Those are things that can really hurt relationships, by the way. You can search out a lot about people. Don't assume you know somebody. Ask them questions. This is why communication is so key. Ask them about themselves. Get to know that person. A lot of the things that I found out in dating is that a lot of people had opinions about me before they even got to talking to me, never talked to me one time, or even took the time to really ask me questions. And going on Facebook or going on someone's social media page is not how you are going to get to know somebody. It's usually getting to the point where you can at least have a dialogue. Find something you have in common. Maybe there's something that they're real passionate about that you have the same passion. One of the things that's really hard is to fake that too. You don't actually have to have the same things in common to be drawn to their good qualities. Good qualities in all relationships is what draws us to begin with. There's going to be a lot of supportive people in your life. There's also going to be a lot of people that are not so supportive. If you're around people that you always have to ask for their permission to get along with them, or you have to feel bad about being happy, then you probably need to pick and choose who you need to surround yourself, especially when you're younger. If you have a good relationship, the last thing you want to do is sabotage it with bad people around you. And you might not always know it at the time, but it could prevent further heartbreaks down the road. So surround yourself around encouraging people. Don't let other people's opinion about somebody change your affection for another. If you're affectionate and care about somebody and there aren't encouraging people around you, do everything you can to protect that relationship, but also avoid those people. I say that with all honesty because I think back to the things that were mostly important about dating, and one being is I never wanted to hurt the person, especially I wanted to be able to walk away from that relationship knowing I did the best I could, even if it didn't work out the way I wanted it, that I still walked away not hurting that person. I don't think I ended up getting more injured in it, if anything. So, you want to be able to walk away, and you want to be able to say, okay, I did try to do the best I could. And if you try to do the best you can and it doesn't work out, then you're not going to be feeling as wounded as you would like to, you might feel less wounded, put it that way. But these are just things I pulled off with YouTube. I thought it was really helpful. I hope it helped you. I really enjoyed it. And there's a whole series on it. Signing off for night. Good night.